Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Waiting for Next Year YouTube channel. I'm Craig Lyndall, and I'm talking about the Browns today. They lost, 12 to 9, 9 to 6, 6 to 3, some kind of field goal iteration of a scoreboard. It was awful. The Browns made it to overtime. They had a chance to win, and they did not do so. Another quarterback carousel was begun, although it's really the same carousel, isn't it? It's just a new name for the first time since training camp. Former depth chart number one, Cody Kessler, makes an appearance. We'll get there. Let's talk about a few things. Number one, draft picks. We need to talk about draft picks because that's the only thing the Cleveland Browns have accomplished in the last 2 years, is that they have accumulated draft picks. They've not won any games. They've not shown any ability to put a team together that can win NFL football games on a field with other NFL football teams during the regular season. Note the asterisk, regular season, because they went perfect in the preseason. Not that that means anything. But the idea is that people look at the draft picks and they look at the assets that have been amassed by this group in this front office, and they're looking at that as some kind of hope. And I agree that that's a good thing. It's something that we wanted to see this group do. It's a great way to rebuild a team. We saw the 49ers do it back in ye olden days, back when I went to the MIT Sloan Analytics Conference. They were the talk of the town because they'd amassed so many draft assets over so many years that, it put them in a position where they should have been able to be competitive and then sustain that competitiveness on a going forward basis. And the Browns have done that, but they've not established any credibility in terms of being competitive on the NFL football field. So we don't know if these draft picks can result in anything but a mismatched group of talented players that don't make sense in terms of building an NFL football team. So I don't know how it's a victory to have those five picks in the first two rounds in the 2018 NFL draft. I just don't know how you hand the keys to this group based on what you've seen so far. They know how to amass talent, and they know how to cut inefficient salaries, I guess, but we don't know that they know how to build an actual football team, which is kind of something that they need to be able to do at some point. And so there's just a lot of faith going on right now. In having this conversation behind the scenes at Waiting for Next Year, Joe Hayden's name keeps coming up. I keep bringing it up not because I think Joe Hayden's going to be an all-pro, not that I think he's going to make the Pro Bowl, but if you're looking for signs of faith in a front office, you're going to have to give me more than cutting Joe Hayden, who's been kind of mediocre this year. Joe Hayden had an interception in a victory on Sunday for the Steelers. That was the first time Joe Hayden had an interception in a victory, first time in 3 years, 3 seasons, something like that. I mean, to think Joe Hayden was the problem here in Cleveland is craziness. He might not be the solution. He might not be, if the Browns are ever good enough to make the playoffs, let alone a Super Bowl, Joe Hayden's probably not a part of that equation. But to think that there was any reason to cut him this year and to execute that roster maneuver in such a way that they took a fan favorite, a culture leader, a community leader like Joe Hayden, they hand-delivered him to the Steelers, to the point where Joe Hayden brings Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell to the Cavs opener here in Cleveland. I mean, it's mismanaged. It's dysfunctional. Again, getting rid of Joe Hayden maybe is not a sign of dysfunction necessarily, but the way these things continue to go down and be a source of embarrassment for the Browns and their fans, that's a problem. That's a problem. And you have to own that. As the front office, they have to own that. That's nobody's fault but theirs. And meanwhile, the Browns culture is on front and center as one of the worst things going on right now. We find out that Corey Coleman and Kenny Britt were sent home early from Houston. Then we get Channel 19 embarrassing Hugh Jackson in the postgame press conference by telling him, apparently for the first time, that they had footage of his quarterback, DeShone Kizer, out at 1:30 on a Friday night. And that's not me saying that it's a big deal that DeShone Kizer was out at 1:30 on a Friday night, because I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's another Johnny Manziel thing. I don't think it's the reason that he was benched on Sunday or the reason that the Browns lost. I just think that it's a bad look. I think it's an even worse look that the head coach had no idea that it was the talk of Twitter and whatever else. Like, you just got to be on top of this stuff as an organization. And it's not to, even if you need to be on top of it as an organization, to minimize it when it's brought up by the press later after the game. You know, if it's meaningless, and I think it is, but you got to make that case, because if you're not saying it, people are talking about you. And the Browns end up just being talked about, and it's a big problem. It's a really big problem, one of many, but not in the top 5 problems for the Cleveland Browns. The top 5 problems for the Cleveland Browns all have to do with the fact that they can't win football games, that they don't have a roster that's competitive enough to win regular season NFL games against other NFL teams, and specifically a Titans team that was doing everything it could to give you a game at home where the defense played well. The Browns still managed to not find any way to put anything together. And that, you can blame Hugh Jackson. I certainly blame Hugh Jackson for a lot of things. Him declining a personal foul to make it 4th and 1 instead of 3rd and 16, and then having the Titans convert and then make a field goal. I blame him for that. Like, I think that's a big problem. But I think NFL coaches are making mistakes every single week, all the time. I think that the Browns are so bereft of talent. They're so lacking in talent on this roster that it doesn't matter who's coaching them. And maybe Hugh Jackson would be exposed with more talent as somebody who could only win 7 when he should be winning 10. You know, I have no doubt that, Hugh Jackson might not be the Super Bowl winning coach for the Browns if they're ever good enough to get there. But I do think all his mistakes are amplified because there's not a single guy on that team that on the offense specifically, that another team has to game plan for. It's about talent. This team has none. It's about talent at the sport's most important position, quarterback. This front office set forth with Brock Osweiler, Deshaun Kaiser, Cody Kessler, and Kevin Hogan. Hugh Jackson makes mistakes. Hugh Jackson might not be a great coach, but I don't think anybody is going to win a whole lot of NFL football games with that quarterback crew. I don't think a whole lot of NFL coaches are going to win football games with the receiving core, including Kenny Britt. Now Joe Thomas is out. Who knows? I don't even have the heart to talk about Joe Thomas right now. I just hope this isn't the last we've seen of the big man. So the Browns stink. They're 0 for the season still. They're headed to London for a home game in London. Thank you very much, NFL. If it wasn't bad enough that you brought the team back without enough time, without enough draft picks, and hand-delivered Jimmy Haslam as an owner, you're taking away one of our home games for London. I guess maybe I should just say thank you. Maybe I should just say thank you. Anyway, this is Waiting for Next Year YouTube channel. Please click to subscribe, like the videos, check out the other videos. Jeff Nomina does a great job on these. Thanks so much. Talk to you next time.